Okay, all good.
We're doing this in Italian, right?
I don't think so, but
I didn't
maybe.
tell you. No.
Okay, great. We are here at the album store in San Clemente. Thank you so much, Matt Parker, for having us with such a short notice.
Yeah.
And I'm really honored to be here and talk to you. And let's start with a question. I was wondering, where does the album name come from?
Yeah, so my background is in design,
Okay.
like visual design, and that's what I went to school for. And when I was starting a design agency to do graphic design, not building, I was building surfboards on the side, but I started a graphic design agency, and I came up with the name album because I liked the idea of how it has multiple meanings
Okay.
and how it's like what makes a beautiful album musically is all the range of songs and all the different music. And it's not just one song, it's the whole
Yeah.
story of the thing. And I also liked how you could, if you hear a song like from an album that you used to listen to when you were a kid, it kind of transports you like right to that feeling.
Yeah.
And then there's the visual side, like a photo album and stuff too. So I just like the visual and the
Okay.
audio way
Okay.
of,
The all things connected that
yeah.
gives you the sense of something you really like or that reminds you of the
Mhm.
past, like with the album, music album. And then what about making surfboards? When did you start
Mhm.
and why you love to do this? And was it after surfing, right?
I was when I was in school, I was going to college, I was in design school,
Yeah.
and I was taking all these art classes and sculpture and painting and all this stuff as like foundational art
Yeah.
program. And I've surfed my whole life, but it was like it was a really fun creative outlet. I wanted to try different types of boards, but I couldn't find these different
Okay.
types of boards like in the surf shops. I would go in the surf shops and there'd be a lot of very traditional pointy nose shortboards, and that's what I grew up surfing. I grew up surfing in the 90s, and so I wanted to surf weird different boards,
Yeah.
and I couldn't really get anybody to make them. So I was like, I'll just try. I'll just like, I was like in art school and it was kind of a creative thing, so I just
Experimental
yeah.
stuff.
So
Okay.
I just kind of started doing it in my backyard and garage and just making boards for myself and painting on them and doing them as like art project hobbies.
Okay.
And then they worked decent enough where I kind of got enough interest to make another one.
Yeah,
I'll make
that
another one.
friends asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
cool. So you have always did also the paintings, the art
Hmm.
was just from your concept or also made by you. So you were painting with
Yeah, so I would. I mean,
still doing it right now?
no. So like originally, like all the original boards, probably the first 1,000, 1,500 boards I did, I
Okay.
painted. I did all the color and everything on
Okay.
them. Because that was like the fun part of it too. I love the idea of a shape, conceptual shape, but then because I was making them with that, not really as a business, I wasn't
Okay.
really concerned with like logos and proper branding and having it look, so I could kind of like just experiment with different splashes of color and
Okay.
types of color and all that stuff. But no, nowadays like we have like amazing crews in all of our factories, very talented like laminators and craftsmen that do all the resin tints and color work. I usually still kind of design direct most of them
Okay.
though.
Okay.
So if somebody orders a custom board, like when we're putting together the order form and this is the color swatches and this is the style of the abstract, we kind of lay it out.
Okay.
And then the crews at our factories just nail it and do an amazing job making them look really good.
Perfect. Okay, cool. And what about the thing that people usually thought that to shape a good surfer, you need to be a good surfer. Is it true in your opinion, or is something that you don't care about?
Um, I think you can be a skilled craftsman with tools and to replicate ideas even if you don't surf well. Like I think you could be good with your hands, but I think to really drive design and
Okay.
to drive ideas and concepts, I think you need to be able to surf
Okay. Okay.
because I think like anybody can be taught skills like this is how you work a planer, this is how you shape rails, this is how you so you can like get reps and replicate
Yeah.
the processes even if you never surfed, you could learn how to shape a surfboard, and if you learned just the steps and you had enough reps of doing it right. But I think to really have conceptual ideas, and to me, like the concept and the vision of what you're trying to make is the most important thing. The
Okay.
execution,
Yeah.
the shaping, the manufacturing is like secondary to me.
Okay.
To me, the idea and the concept is key.
Okay.
And I surf well enough. I've surfed most of my life. I'm not a professional surfer, but I surf a lot. I surf most every day, and that's very critical to my design process
Okay.
and feedback and R&D. All that stuff is like I get a lot of ideas every time I surf, and I get inspired by, being out in the water and like seeing what this board feels like and what I could do to change that to give a different feeling or make it do something better or
Okay.
different.
Yeah. And do you usually are the first tester to each and every board you design, or it's something maybe you make for some athletes, ambassador, and he's the first one to try it out?
Early days, I was definitely the only, like the main tester and
Okay.
driver of coming up with ideas. Nowadays, though, like we have amazing guys on the team, and I know they're surfing really well. Like I know what they do and like kind of
Yeah.
what they're looking
Okay.
for, and I know what kind of boards they're riding. And so there's been a lot of times in the last couple of years where I'll design something and make it for them, and they're the first ones to ride it. And then I
Okay.
usually like make a version for myself in my dims,
Okay. Okay.
and then kind of like back channel to R&D. So it's like they're on it and writing it, and I
Okay.
can feed
And
it.
so you know what they're saying
Yeah.
because you've tested
And
it.
then I'm
Okay.
making it for myself. So it's a little bit of both. And then a lot of times too, I'll design and make something. I'll be surfing it myself a bunch and having fun, and I want to see how it goes for them. And so then
Okay.
I'll make a
Okay.
version that's kind of
Okay.
like made for them.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. And I was wondering before, because you mentioned the fact that you now have a real like good team, talented team.
Mhm.
If there was any guy or girl in the beginning that's helped you the way that we'll say Craig Anderson helped Iden Shapes to be recognized all around the world, because that's what has happened, and it was like the Hypto Crypto was a strange design,
Mhm.
not like alternative like your boards. So did anyone play that role for you, or it was just organic growth?
Mhm. We definitely had like people taking notice, but Josh Kerr was the first
Yeah,
like really known like worldwide pro surfer, top 5 talent
yeah,
professional in the world to really validate the designs. Because a lot of people had seen our boards for a long time and thought, oh, those are pretty.
yeah.
They look cool, but I don't know if they actually
Exactly,
really
it will
work.
work.
And
Yeah.
so it was very gratifying. Like working with Josh was amazing because he's as as good as he is, he's probably underrated,
Mm,
like his surfing ability. The funniest story with Josh is that of all the times I've surfed with him, I don't think I've ever seen him paddle for a wave and not catch it.
really?
Meaning like, so has like this next level ability when he's actually surfing, but just like ocean
Reading.
reading and knowledge, always in the right spot, like all that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
It's very fascinating to see in person, but validating alternative boards in consequential waves and real waves and Indo
Was
all over
him.
the world for sure, like that.
Yeah, I can remember like 5, 6 years ago, him riding very short tweenies,
Hmm.
made from you like in the men's with
Hmm.
huge barrels. Yeah, that's true. And seems like from the outside that Josh is like a really nice guy, but also someone that can understand the whole process,
Hmm.
not just like surfing hard, but also
Hmm.
going into details. So I can see that he has been the guy
Hmm.
for you. And then I will ask you if you prefer aesthetic or functionality, what you will take in a surfboard.
For me, it's always functionality first.
Functionality first.
Functionality first for sure, because I think functionality drives a beautiful aesthetic,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah,
it's like if it's like
good point.
functional and it's surfing beautifully and it's carrying speed, like naturally it's much easier to apply a beautiful aesthetic to that,
That's so true. Yeah.
and I think they're really tied too, because when you see a really beautiful outline on a surfboard, or when you see a really beautiful foil, or when you see like a really like nice perfectly crisply foiled rail shape and all that stuff, that's aesthetic too,
Yeah,
you know, but it's functional at its primary.
yeah, because I see not only in surfboards, but mainly in a lot of brands that do technical stuff,
Mhm.
that they just want to have this beautiful empty box.
Mhm.
So you see it and it looks cool, but then the materials or the design or the innovations are not there. So it's something I think is not easy to combine aesthetic and functionality, but your answer was perfect.
I like the variety of it too, though. You know what I
Okay.
mean? There's not like I don't think anyone should just like have a quiver of just basic boring boards, or you shouldn't, you know, it's good to surf a lot of things, a variety of
Okay.
different things, have a different, you know, experiment a little bit more.
Exactly. So let's talking about riding different things and what are the advantages of surfing an asymmetrical board?
Oh, it's just more user friendly.
Agree?
Asymmetrical boards are easier to go, they're easier to generate speed and they're easier to turn.
Okay.
So they feel a little bit more connected to you. It's just, it's interesting because they look weird.
Exactly.
They look unconventional
Yeah.
when you look at them, and so you think when you see one like, oh, this is going to be kind of trickier to surf, or I'm going to have to like take a different approach to it. But when you jump on one that's made well and fins are placed right and all that stuff, it's actually
Easy.
very natural and very user friendly because it's the fins and the way the rails are shifted
Okay.
suit your body a little bit more naturally and how we stand. And so when you get up and you ride, your foot is really right in the sweet spot for going fast and for pivoting and turning.
Okay.
So it's this very connected feel, which makes the board very efficient. So you get speed easily. And when you're carrying speed through turns, and then it's putting it on rails easier because of the little advantages of the
Okay.
asymmetry.
Cool. And do you feel these like advantages more on the front side or on the back side?
Yeah, both.
Both?
Yeah, it's how you stand. Because you think about like if I'm regular footed and if I'm doing a really front side power carve, I'm
Yeah.
doing that on my heel
Yeah.
side rail.
Yeah, sure.
And
And
I'm
it's the same like doing a bottom turn.
doing a bottom turn on my backside. It's the same rail curve. It's a little bit different body positioning, obviously,
Yeah.
because you're facing your back's to the wave, but
Yeah.
it's similar in how the board
Yeah.
operates a little bit. So
Okay, cool. And another question is that we've seen now launching the project with Coco and
mhm.
So Coco, and I was thinking if really we really needed a surfboard brand made like or surfboards made by for female.
Mhm.
So do you think the measures and shapes and designs for female surfboards are really different, and would this make the difference?
Yeah, if you think about like it's funny. I was in Hawaii last week with Coco,
Yeah.
and I'm 6'2", 190 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms,
I
but
don't
a
know.
lot. Probably 80, 85, 90
Yeah,
kilograms
would be
or whatever.
around 85, 90.
Anyways, and I'm standing next to her, and she's
Yeah.
probably a foot shorter than me. My foot size in US size is like 12 or 13.
Okay, so
Her
it's 45, 46,
her
46,
her
the same as
yeah,
Marzo.
her foot size is like a 7 in women's.
Okay.
So like if you look at like our foot
Okay,
size
okay.
difference, so it's extremely different. So
Yeah.
when she was on tour, she was riding short boards, like performance short boards that are like 5'6", 5'5", 18 and 3/8, like 2 and an eighth. With a size 7 foot, she's maybe 5'1", 5'2", something like
Yeah.
that. And so
Okay.
and her short boards were probably like 23 liters or something like
23 liters,
23 and a half liters.
like a Grom board.
Yeah,
And we have Grom size.
but interesting though,
Yeah.
like that actually, like if you scaled those dimensions to your size
Yeah.
or my size, that would be like me riding a 23 and a half inch wide shortboard.
Okay, so that's interesting too.
So for
Because that,
her, it's too much
yeah,
width.
yeah.
And so like
Okay.
so the boards I'm making for when I started making for her were like 5'2", 5'3", so more at her height, so a little bit more balanced under
Okay.
her frame, and under 18, like 17 and 3/4, 17 and a half wide.
Okay.
So very narrow, but a touch thicker in the middle,
Okay.
and a
Cool.
little bit of foam distribution, a little bit more forward,
Okay.
foiled, low rails. And so her 5'3" is like 24 and a half liters. So it's
Okay.
actually like a liter and a half more in
Then
volume, but proportionally and dimensionally, it's way more balanced under her shoulder width, under her where she stands, her
okay.
foot size. So she's able to like manipulate that volume way more effectively. So the board is
So
more,
interesting.
yeah. So she can get it on a rail easier. She can leverage. She's super strong and has amazing fundamentals, but she's just small,
Yeah.
So it's like making it a more powerful package for her to
Yeah.
control and do something with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And did you and Coco really get acquainted during the East surfboard test?
Yeah, stab electric acid test
Okay.
we did. It's been like 3 years ago, maybe something like that now. I don't even know. Yeah.
With her and
With
Mason.
Mason,
Yeah.
yeah, that was like a great example. I've had the concept for designing women's boards differently
Really?
for a long time, and that was a perfect chance to do it because the assignment for that test was like take one model, make it for Mason, make it for Coco, and actually make it for Michael, their dad, as well.
Okay.
And so, you know what I mean? So it's like you're taking one concept, and I was like, Mason's board is very different than Coco's, even though they were kind of the same
Exactly.
model.
And they are the same, pretty much the same size,
Yeah,
weight
Mason's not a
probably.
big guy either.
Yeah.
He's small, but has bigger feet.
Yeah.
He's upper body stronger, longer arm, all that kind of stuff. And so it was designing to account for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, nice. And let's remain on the shaper athlete relationship. I've heard from Stap again, from your colleague, who was probably Darren Handley and John Paisel, talking about Jack Freestone
Hmm.
as their hardest athlete to make surfboards.
Hmm.
Is it true? Because now he's working with you.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
That's what's so funny. That whole thing, like Jack is like the nicest, most thoughtful, easygoing guy.
Okay.
Like love him like a brother. He's like a lot of professional athletes are very self-centered. The world revolves
Yeah.
around them and they think, they really only think of themselves. Jack is like the most like he's like thinking about everyone around him, you know what I mean?
Okay.
He's very different from that. He's very unusual from a
Okay.
professional athlete. So that whole thing was so
Did you heard it before?
it was so the funniest part about that is Jack was writing for Paisel, and
Yeah.
Paisel wasn't even really making him boards.
Okay.
Jack was getting his boards from like the Australia licensee of
Okay.
Paisel. And so when John was talking about he didn't know what board Jack was riding in that heat with John's because he didn't even make it for him. So to say he's like difficult to make boards for is
Eh, okay. It doesn't make sense
it
at
doesn't
all.
make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, that's not my experience
Yeah. Okay.
anyway.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'm like if you have a team of people that ride for you, like to me, like my favorite part of making boards is designing boards for the people that ride for me and then seeing those boards being ridden.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands or a lot of labels that have a team and then they say, here's our models, ride our models.
Mm.
And everybody, if you're on the team, you ride the models that are like the models for that label or whatever. And
Yeah.
to me, it's like, no, I want to make boards that Jack wants to ride, that he's excited to ride, or that suit Victor surfing. Like Asher Pacey's quiver is very different than Victor's, which is very different than Josh Kerr, which is very different than Brendan Margison.
Okay.
And in Coco's example, it's like it didn't make sense to do that under album at all. It should be its own separate label, to design this completely differently. So you should be, yeah. It's such a missed opportunity. I
Yeah.
think if you have an amazing professional
That's
surfer
that's so true.
that surfs for you and you're just telling them this is what you're supposed to ride,
Yeah.
like
I guess it's also a matter of production because you are on the opposite side of most of the most relevant shapers. You are probably the only one doing boards one by one, as you told me before.
mhm,
I've seen that yesterday you have been shaving until late night.
mhm,
Today you were the first one in the shop. So when big brands want to create a new model, probably they have to create a new line of production,
mhm,
and it's not that easy. So
true.
it's so interesting that your concept is the opposite, like pushing personalization
Mhm,
and trying possibly to give every and each of your team rider a model, a custom
exactly,
model, like signature model,
for sure.
and that's so interesting. Yeah. And who's the most talented in the team?
Oh,
Hard
it,
one.
it's probably impossible to answer
Yeah.
because they like if you look at all their surfing, it really is like it's so unique, right? Like Margot has like this,
Yeah.
he's like 51 years old and ripping, like, but very relatable to us regular people because he's like more, he's
Yeah,
not, he's not,
his stall is huge.
yeah, so I would say it's hard to, they're so unique, like they're not all
Yeah.
the same, right?
Yeah.
Like Jack is like competing on the world tour,
Mm,
Josh competing on the world tour. Asher is like one of the most stylish surfers ever.
yeah.
Victor is like kind of a package of all that wrapped into one with like style and
Yeah.
like interested in riding different boards. Could compete if he wanted to, but doesn't
And
need to.
how did you discover Victor's talent? Because I feel that he came out with you.
Hmm.
Yeah, the time he started surfing album, he really popped up,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, Victor, he's from, nothing in Brazil, like comes from very
Yeah.
not a whole lot. And so, but he had talent early on. And your path, if you come from not much to make it as a surfer, is to compete.
Yeah.
So it's like he was on that track, like a lot of other like
Yeah.
competitive surfers you
US
see.
struggle.
Yeah, and he was really good. He was riding for Billabong and was like one of their up and coming guys and had a couple really good years on the QS.
Okay.
But then like injury and like contracts like being canceled like left him kind of like in without anything. And so Mike, who runs like our Instagram and a lot of our team stuff here, had seen Victor surfing at Lowers years ago,
Okay.
like 10, 12 years ago when
Oh,
Victor
wow.
was like a Grom.
Okay.
And he remembered seeing Victor then, even on like shortboards and trying to compete, but he had really beautiful
Low.
fundamental
Yeah.
bottom turn and good style, just like naturally, like you could tell he had worked on style, and it kind of stood out because most teenage kids don't. And your
Yeah.
stereotype of like a aggressive competitive surfer from Brazil is not usually associated with good style in that way.
Yeah.
And so Mike had just kind of like kept an eye on what he was doing. And
Okay.
then he saw he had kind of competed, but then he kind of fell off and he kind of disappeared a little bit. And
And that's when,
well, no, Victor, he lost his Billabong, had canceled his
okay.
contract. He was living out in the desert here, like 2 hours from the beach.
Really, why?
Work
Because it
because
was people.
had to make a living. So he
Okay.
was working washing dishes
Oh, wait.
and working at a catering company, trying to save up money to be able to go and like do a contest to try to like get sponsors.
Wow.
And
What a
so
story.
yeah, and so Mike was like, "Hey, do you want to try? You want to try a board? It's something different. Are you open-minded to ride it?" And like Victor's always loved twins and other kinds of boards, so he was like, "Yes," and jumped on them, and it was like instant like
Um,
connection, instant. And he's like, he's I don't know if you talked to him. Did you talk to him?
yeah, yeah,
He's the
yeah.
best.
Now yeah.
He's the best. Like
Yeah,
like
it's
if it.
really kind because now I know why, because I didn't know the his story really well.
Hmm.
But now that you told me that he went through all that ups and downs,
Hmm.
I can see that when you really, really went down, when you are like famous, notorious people in your niche, because we are surfers, so it's not like football players.
Hmm.
So you are in some way reachable. I can text
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
But I really love when people like you, like him, just answered an email or a DM
Yeah.
on Instagram, and it's something so rewarding. And
Hmm.
I guess that makes the difference, really.
He's one, like if you ever want to surf, if you go surf with Victor, he's like smiling the whole time, very like gracious, doesn't take too many waves. He's like happy cheering other people into waves. So like people are very drawn to him because he's super intelligent, like a really smart guy, like
Yeah,
very has all his stuff in order, you know what I mean? And then
yeah,
he's just like thoughtful, friendly, sweet person. So
perfect, nice.
yeah.
Hope we will surf with him next week.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now he's away,
Just
but
being surf in person too, you're like, whoa, it kind of blows your mind. Look
yeah.
how good he is.
And yesterday we started this topic, this chat about making surfboards, and so I wanted to uh, like really go into the fact that probably doing surfboard is not that easy business,
Hmm.
and if and how you're making it sustainable
Hmm.
financially, and because you also have a team of people.
Hmm.
Yesterday we also had a chat with your guys, and you have people here, you have people there in Australia. So
Hmm.
what's your recipe?
Yeah, I think there's very slim margins in surfboard
Mm,
production, right? And so um, a lot of surfboard brands sell their boards through retail
yeah,
shops, and that cuts the
kills.
margin in half for
Mm,
everybody. For the shop isn't making very much money, and the manufacturers aren't making very much money. So that's a tricky model to try to like
okay.
build a business that way. And so we focus, most of our business is like direct to the customer, like
Yeah,
where you wanted a board,
yeah.
you speak to us, speak to me
To
directly,
you directly.
make the
That's
board,
crazy.
deliver the board, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so that allows us to not have to do volume. Like we don't have to make 20,000
yeah,
surfboards in a year to like make enough money to survive. So we can make a little bit more reasonable amount of boards. So we're not, you know, like there's probably really realistically a cap on how many boards I would make in
yeah,
a year, just to keep it reasonable and to make sure that we have like good customer relationships,
yeah.
make sure that people are getting what they're asking for, that we're delivering boards on time. We've spent, 15, 20 years building our factory relationships. And so we have like 4 factories that glass our boards in North America and 1 in Australia.
Yeah.
And so those guys, we keep everybody paid on time. We
Mm,
don't go, when boards are done, boards are paid for. Our laminators, our sanders, we really make sure everybody's taken care of and they enjoy working with us.
yeah.
And so it's like keeping it small, keeping it the right size, not getting too um, greedy about being bigger than it should be. Surfing is small,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like like there's not going to be $1 billion surfboard manufacturer.
Exactly.
You
I
know,
don't
and
think so. I don't think so.
no,
We know where the money are, but we will not talk about it there because if not, people will chase us. No, no,
no,
I'm joking.
yeah, it's more like you want to enjoy what you do. Like I enjoy making boards for people that I have,
Yeah.
that I communicate with, that I
It's
see
so
out in the
rewarding, I
water.
guess.
It's very
Yeah.
satisfying. It's not like in dollars. It's not, you're not getting rich, but in like personal satisfaction and meaning in like what we're making is very meaningful and very feels good, and it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable, so it's worth it.
Yeah. Those,
But it's like, but this business is tricky because it's like everything operates on a very razor thin,
yeah,
so you have
like
to be really on
tight
top of it.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. And don't you think that because of its difficult dynamics, surfing should be run by surfers? So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to launch a new business in surfing,
Hmm.
you should know surfing culture, right?
If you're an entrepreneur that wants to make a bunch of money, like surfing is not the business to launch your business in.
That's a good
First,
point.
first of all, there's other, if you want to go like get rich someplace, there's plenty of other things to do. So yeah, it's definitely like a passion thing. It's because you love it. It's because it's what we are into,
Yeah,
And if you can make it your job and you can make a living doing it, I mean, that's kind of like all you can ask for.
yeah, it's true. One last question, Matt. We're here in California, and for most of us Italian surfers, this is paradise.
Mhm.
And we are trying to go around, me and Tommy, and looking also into people's life, getting in touch with you that are living there, that you have the same interests as ours. But is it truly paradise? Because I see that there's a good work-life balance.
Mhm.
People that have normal job,
Mhm.
they can go to the beach like before the sun's comes down, even if it's winter now and it's like gets dark at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
So what are your feelings about living California?
Yeah, it's easy to take it for granted, and everyone, it's easy to complain about where you live.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like you see, I've grown up here. I've been here my whole life. I think I'm like a fifth generation or sixth generation Californian.
Okay.
Like my family side's been here for a long, long time. So it's definitely home, and I would have a hard time living elsewhere because I can live here and make a surfboard brand. We're across the street from the ocean. I can go run down for a surf. We work a lot, like hours. I put
I
in
think
60, 70, 80 hour weeks most every week. So it's definitely, the cost of living is high, so you have to be able to afford to live. But the weather's good. There's like where we are here in San Clemente, there's a couple amazing point breaks and fun beach breaks. And it's really, you could probably surf 350 days out of the year.
Yeah,
It's something to surf. It's never like world class, but
it's always there.
there's always something, and it's always like you get a lot of really, really fun days, and it's easily accessible to go fly somewhere,
Yeah,
go down to Mexico. It's kind of a good centrally located place to do. But it's also, there's a lot of people here too.
yeah. I,
Because we build boards in Australia, and Australia is amazing. One of my favorite places to go, like amazing waves, beautiful country, greatest people. And in the entire country of Australia, I think there's 25 million people.
yeah,
And Australia is about the size of the United States.
yeah.
And in Southern California, from LA to San Diego, there's about 25-30 million people.
And
So
it's 3 hours by car.
So I tell my friends in Australia that from Brisbane to Coolangatta, hour and a half, 2 hour drive. If you
Yeah.
took everybody from Australia and put them into that little zone, that's like Southern California. And they cannot comprehend, it doesn't compute in their brain.
Yeah, even if the Gold Coast is pretty crowded and a lot of surfers are like concentrated there, and if you go to West Oz, it's like a land of I don't know, of
Yeah,
empty surf spot
exactly.
and sharks too.
Exactly. So it's crowded, but you just have the kind of the right mindset. It's all perspective, really. Like if you want to find the bad things about places, believe me, you can find plenty of things to
Yeah,
complain about. If you have the right perspective, then you can find the beauty in it all.
yeah. And we'll keep looking for beauty.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure and you've been so kind. So hopefully see you soon.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Yeah.